our kingdoms and the sovereignty of our country. And furthermore, to say this, it is also very important that we also restore the security of our kingdoms through the protection and the control of the people. Once we win that, we restore the securities, the peacekeepers of all, then we can have the defenders of the people. Because I will tell you this without even having any fear or favor. The military, the police, they are not here to defend us. The courts or anyone, they are not here to defend us. They are here to defend the cooperative status. The corporate status that they are protecting is sitting in Stellenbosch. So anything that threatens their sovereignty, they will make it a point that they stand on the way of the success of that thing that stands on their sovereignty. So I am pleading with our people and saying to our people, that is not a wrong decision to make when you join EMK party. In fact, you are not even doing anyone a favor by joining EMK party. In fact, you will be fixing your country. You are a man in action, so your action needs to be taken into consideration. So I for one, standing here, I'm saying to my brothers and my sisters who are here in the space, we are here 100%. We don't want parliaments. We don't want to go to these offices, fancy offices. We want Ilizwele to go back to the hands of our people, so that our people can work with our traditional leaders to build their own kingdoms. And this is the vehicle that they can use to drive their country back. And in closing, Mr. Spaceman, in saying this, because I can't say Umkhonto space, but to say, Mr. Spaceman, we are flying now. We are on another level as the people. We've seen this thing, and we are going to our communities now to drive the spirit of EMK. T-shirt of new T-shirt is no longer about T-shirts now. It's about the sovereignty of our people and them to realize what Ubaba has realized and started showing us. And truly speaking, good people, we didn't bet a losing horse. This is a winning horse, and let's just go and do it. And fear nobody, fear no one. They will threaten you, they will threaten your family, but understand this. It was never easy, and it will never be easy. So remember that you are taking food from mouth of criminals who have been stealing and robbing the scoffers. And despite all that they have done, they can't go anywhere. And today is today that they have tried to stop this many years ago, when they were frustrating the concentration of Umsholozi to focus on his administration. So change is coming. It's certain and is sure. We are here, and we are here to stand. I'm pleading to our traditional leaders to say, Siyacela, let's start preparing ourselves in the ward level, strengthen the MK in the ward level, and also strengthen the structures that we will be sooner introducing once we are done with our elders, because we want to have permanent people who are representing the cultures and tradition on each and every ward. And we don't care from what tribe you are coming from, as long as you are a South African and you were born and bred in South Africa. In Gauteng will make you the head man of that ward. You will be sitting there to guide the people in terms of culture and tradition. Our duty is not politics or to involve ourselves in politics. Our duty is to vote the right movements and to continue with our duties as traditional leaders, to mobilize our people to understand their culture, their tradition, their value, and where they need to go. And the rest of politics, we left politics to all of you to talk politics. We are here. If they are bothering you, can tell us that they are busy bothering. If they are arresting you, we will come and remove you and place you in the correct jurisdiction. And we are going very strong as traditional leaders, because we're formalizing our courts now out of their own jurisdiction. out of the ANC's court system control, independently from our forefathers. Our courts were existing long before even this political system or government system existed, and they will exist because our law is superior than their law, and we are going to resist irrespective of what and defend this movement strongly. And I want to say thank you, good people. Let's just do one thing. Let's just do it. It's 2024. Let's just do it.
Thank you so much, Chief. We are very blessed to today with your presence among us, and we can speak to you directly, and you can, unpack all these things that you are unpacking. And again, I want to say thank you for honoring the invitation and accepting the mic to be part of this space, because the topic that we are having today, it does concern you as traditional leaders. So for us, it is a blessing, and I hope that other listeners they can take the mic as well, so that we can have questions. If you have questions for the chief, and he's still here with us. Yeah, and but I'm sure there's still more that we are going to learn, as we are always learning from these spaces, and we are learning from each other. So make sure that you take the mic and you share with us whatever knowledge that you have, because it is proven nowadays, lately, especially here in South Africa, that the things that we are learning from each other, they are even more accurate than the things that we learn from media and from the wrong people. So we need to use this opportunity to share the knowledge that we have, so that we don't get lost along the way. So before we go to Mam Nomsa, I see my Kika unidentified is as on unidentified.
Thank you very much for recognizing me. I really wanted to quickly comment on what we have learned from Hoshi. And just to say that there are a number of points, just at least 3 points that I need them to be emphasized. One will be the terminology that I think as you are going to be a group or a body that is going to be discussing the way forward and your functionality and the role, we need to have a terminology that is going to be acceptable to us. I know that we can be using a chief or a king, but we need to be, to be assisted as to how to address you, even in the spaces like this, because it shows our Africanness. If we approach you well, not call you chief or call you whatever, but if there could be clarity on that, it's just 1 point. Two, and a second point, you touch on the issues of the boundaries, be it this western side of Johannesburg, this side of Pretoria, and the like. I think that's a very important point that we are coming up with, which the body of our traditional leaders would need to look at that, come into agreement aside. And how I wish there will be no white person in such kind of meetings, taking taking notes or doing whatever thing. It could be done exclusively by the royal families of South Africa, so that those can be determined, and those boundaries should not exclude any areas that covers the mining or the townships or the suburbs or the whatever you. And then there should be policy proposals in terms of, now, given that the boundaries they cover these types of communities, which may involve industries, big industries, soft industries in terms of office building and the like. What does it mean in terms of the expectations? Because those things are very important, and that's where parties like DA, Ireland, that they have already started giving some pieces of land that are claimed to be belonging to municipality. Municipality is nothing. It's something of today. Municipality does not have land. It's royal families that are supposed to be having land. But now we are told that. Then the third point that would need clarity on will be, some of us in here may have been exposed into reading or into traveling. I happen personally to know of countries like the United Arab Emirates, which is called in short UAE. That country in itself, it has got, if I'm not mistaken, 7 kingdoms. One being Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and the like and the like. They have got traditional leaders who are in charge of those wealthy cities, wealthy states that are in there. Even though they can appoint some politicians to do that, to do some part of things, but they are the ultimate leaders who determine who is going to mine this oil exploration and whatever here and there. I don't know why South African government since 1994 has not taken upon itself to do this study tours by the traditional leaders and not politicians. We see Abu Mbalila going to about Dubai and updating their statuses and so forth. That's not what we're actually expecting. We expect our houses of traditional leaders to go out there, check different kingdoms and see as to how they go parallel to what they want to see happening in our country. So those are the 3 points that I wanted just our own Hoshi to touch on them whenever he is only going to be getting another opportunity to talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before he responds, let us have Umam Nomsa for her submission. Mam Nomsa.
Ngiyabingelela kini lonke, ngiyabonga kakhulu ngethuba, ngibonga kakhulu nasenkosini to grace our space. Ngithanda ukusho ukuthi i-topic yanamhlanje I've been awaiting. I think this space, well done to the host and the topic. And nginombuzo noma sengifike ngiqalile ningixolele bandla ngokungafiki ngesikhathi ezinye izinto zayizingibambe. But bengajabula kakhulu nje kokuqala looking at the topic ukuthi njengoba ithi our space, yes it is our space, but let it be known and be seen ukuthi umkhonto le space somkhonto, umkhonto our space. Then we can go to the topic ngoba as umkhonto sihlangene ngokuthowa iline kule ndaba yezwe lethu. Nginombuzo ngithola inkosi ikhuluma la. Umbuzo wami oqala uthi sihleli la kumkhonto space nje sidingida udaba nendlela nomhlahlandlela ozosiza ekutheni kubuyiswe izwe lakithi. Selibuya nje ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi inkosi makwakhiwa ngo-1996 lento ebizwa i-Constitution yase South Africa, amakhosi, were they informed? Are they involved? Futhi bathini manje ngale ncwadi njengoba sesifika namhlanje sithi sifuna u2/3 majority to can go and revamp and look at this constitution. Okokuqala lokho. Okwesibili ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi njengamakhosi lelizwe lethu selihleli ngendlela ehleli ngalo nje eyabo imizamo neeffort abayifakayo ukusincedisa thina njengabantu bamnyama base South Africa abantshontshelwe umnotho yini na kube ngathi irole yabo ingasemuva noma inkosi seyishilo ukuthi eyabo imithetho is superior to the Latin and the Roman laws that govern our courts, which are influenced by our constitution. Okugcina nje ngithanda ukwazi inkosini ukuthi umbuzo la omkhulu uthi, does multi-party democracy work for South Africa? Ngithanda ukusho ukuthi ayisebenzi kodwa ngicela ukuthi ngehlo kwamanje ngizwe ukuthi enkosini njengamakhosi babuka kanjani lo daba lokuthi umulti democracy kimi usho ukuthi kunabo democracy abahlukahlukene sebangene kulelizwe lakithi la South Africa noma bengaphakathi noma bengaphandle by influence or by virtue of being present. Manje ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi njengamakhosi amiselwe ubukhosi obukhona ubuzilo identified nokuthi ba-addresswa kanjani babekwa kanjani kule ndaba zase South Africa ngoba kucacile ukuthi sonke asahlalanga kahle Nje bengicela ukubuza le mbuzo kwamanje, ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Ma'am Nomsa. My chief, I should have warned you, but we are happy, we are blessed. This is our home. So when we see a leader of your caliber, it is very important for us to ask all sorts of questions for clarification. So over to you, my chief.
Thank you, thank you. Babu, and identify, and you know what?
Bathina, stop, stop.
Anisicabangeli
Babu Top,
madoda
Babu
thina
Top,
sifundanga iflu.
Babu Top.
Hayi asifunda. Okay, I will start with you by simply saying mera nna ke kgosikgolo ya morafe wa Bakwena, and tse tsa bo chief-e re di boleletswe ke bo papa rona Pharakgolo. I know nothing because I've never met a book from my history that actually speaks about chief, but it speaks about Kgoshikgolo. So I don't just like titles because it's my birthright. I am born to sit on this throne, and there's no one undisputed. So by saying that, I want to go to umama, because once I start answering umama, it will answer most of your questions. Bantu abaholo, good people, my elders, let's understand each other here. I-constitution asivumelanga thina. Even at the CODESA, we rejected to go. I have minutes of the meeting. I'm happy because by then my father was deputy chairperson of the Transkei Traditional Leaders Forum. So I have the documents, part of the documents that they were utilizing to file the documents at the CODESA. They actually rejected the entire CODESA setup because it never wanted it never had the role of traditional leaders, because they wanted to go to this thing in a simple way. If you were to understand what Nelson Mandela said when he said ANC is a multi-democracy, it's not it never had it never actually had what you call a vision of exactly what they're going to do with traditional leaders. That is why traditional leaders were never included. Only very few tribal authorities that actually agreed with a system of this system to do, but I won't mention them. But they know themselves what kingdom and which kingdom they actually signed and agreed on this. So in a lighter note, I'm referring you to a constitution that was written in 1993, the interim constitution of 1993. Go and check the paragraph that deals with the powers of traditional leaders. You will find that there is quite a lot of powers that are vested there. Even permissions were granted, prior granted by traditional leaders on anything that ought to deal with the land development. But communities were supposed to be consulted for us in the rural areas. But when you look at how then Nelson Mandela in 1996 at Washington, D.C., they changed the constitution. The constitution was amended in they write it in 1996. Was put into law in 1996. But the Republic of South Africa, the new republic that they are calling a new republic, the status confirmation was done in 1995 to submit the resolution. There's a clause in the preamble. If those who are sitting on Google can just Google the 1996 interim constitution, there's the constitution that our parents went and agreed to vote, because that was inclusive of the idea of how to fix. Because when traditional leaders approached CODESA, they said, no, since the constitution includes you and we are going to revive your kingdoms and your land is going to be restored, others started signing documents that they never know what was exactly that. And those documents were the power of the attorney that was transferring power. These are the news that you'll never hear from anyone. The power of the attorney was then transferred to the new government in 1995. In 1996, then that constitution got into law, meaning that the constitution got into law without the proper channels, because the first channel when you bring a constitution into law, the entire preamble of the constitution, you can't just amend it through the acts of parliament. It needs a referendum, because it is the identity of who we are. And then we even complained about, there's nothing that actually on the preamble that speaks about the sovereignty, because go look at the 1996 interim constitution preamble, including the acts that deals with sovereignty. You'll find that your sovereignty as a sovereign man or woman is guaranteed through and through. But when it gets to the new constitution, that part of your sovereignty is taken away, is vested in parliament. Your power to call a referendum. Because let me tell you this, what will shock you is that 1992 white-only referendum took place in this country. There were very few tribes, not the Asian tribes allowed to vote, but only whites, Indians, and other colors were allowed to vote on the white-only referendum. And then that white-only referendum is the one that is actually responsible for amendment of the constitution and ending apartheid and confirming that the South Africa, the war is over, whatever that they were busy trying to do. So we need to go back there and fix the problems that exist, because there's a committee in parliament. I might not call the name properly, but to refer you to the Accord agreement, the Accord agreement that was signed in 1995 on the 27th of April, to be exact on the date. There was an accord in South Africa between the African National Congress and the Freedom Front Plus, and the United States government came and signed as the witnesses, the security exchange and other things. That agreement on that signature was effecting the registration of Orania. One was effecting the False Gas Council. There's a council that is actually more superior than all of you are thinking when you are voting. That council is actually called the people. The people is that council of white people. So I'm employing your services to deeper into these issues and look directly into them. But as I am I'm explaining to you, I'm also available on telephone conversations to answer a few questions and help wherever that I can help. But with documents, I can share more documents than you can think to help you understand our colonization. So the power of traditional leaders, to answer you, my brother, was then taken away from there. So for us as traditional leaders, we must go and reinstate ourselves first by first recognizing each other with our own boundaries, because we killed by jealous. The other thing, we are negotiating with criminals who are not even from the royal blood themselves, who are representing ANC at all level, and they are calling themselves traditional leaders. That's where our problems are emanating as traditional leaders, because we have people who were beneficiaries of the apartheid, who are still sitting on their own thrones, who are doing everything that they can to make sure that the emancipation of our traditional leaders holistically does not happen. So that is my little 2 cents into replying the questions. If you are answered, but I believe that everyone will be answered after this, because I've said it how it is. Our problems are emanating there. So traditional leaders, let's meet and sign treaties. Treaty agreements are international binding documents. Even going into I have a treaty agreement on our kingdom now for the water project that I'm doing, the water packaging project that I did for a community. So that us as a community can be self-employed with our own water in the Moy River. So I have a treaty with the international kingdom, and we are doing well so far with our relationship. Although it's not Britain, because there's nothing that makes me with Britain, but it's the kingdom in Africa that has been doing this thing in Kenya, and they've been doing the water project for far too long. So now we partnered to do the Metsi Asidiba, and then also to do Madibamantu water project as well to supply our own community and also share our water because it has very beautiful features with the rest of the world. So thank you, good people. I am here. I'm gonna sit here up until the space ends.
Thank you so much, Chief. Once again, we are honored and we are definitely learning a lot of things today. Before we go to Rachel, I see that we have El Nino. El Nino, your submissions.
Good evening, MK. Good evening, leaders. Good evening, um, listeners. Um, Mine was to ask Chief Tekiso on the issue that he just shared on the space, because would remember we'd have Mpanpa Buthelezi, the MK veteran, would come on our spaces as well. I did send him an invite, but maybe he's engaged at the moment, because these issues that we discuss with him when it comes to traditional leadership, the monarchs that were disposed by the colonizers, the European, British, Netherlands, French colonizers that were sent here. But to answer first the question on the space, does multi-party democracy work for South Africa? In the current 30 years, it has worked for the ANC, especially when it began to lose the 60% majority that was threatened in 2004. So that's when now they began to now engage the coalition of the official opposition, which is, we know, it's EDA, which was firstly the Democratic Party. Then they made an alliance with the National Party, then, and all those other parties that were there during apartheid, the white-only parties. And it became to what is known as EDA, because we know, I think it was Martinus van Scanvik ephelele emoyeni indaba yakhe ukuthi afome the frustrated Verkamte New National Party, who were just in ukuthi nje they can never have an alliance with the Verlagtengs, the people who considered it to international pressure that they must have a referendum to abolish apartheid. And he was given, I think, the Ministry of Water Affairs, Environmental Affairs, something like that. But as Mazge today, where he is today. It has worked, as we are saying, that this constitution, as we've had Chief Tekiso submit, it has worked because the constitution was drafted by colonizers. It was not drafted by the natives. The natives were absent. There's a very famous speech that former President Jacob Zuma made in Parliament before he was ousted by the very same colonizers, being represented by the puppet regime of ANC. Where he mentioned that, with all those clashes of wars that happened pre-colonial times, there have been no engagements of engaging the native people who were displaced by the colonizers. We know that genocides were there, which they don't want to acknowledge. The native people, the Khoi, the San people, the Xhosa, the Xhosa tribe. I refer to the Xhosa because that is what we came to know. But I know I've heard certain histories here on the space that no, Xhosa, it's actually a multi tribes that are there. They don't really accept ukuthi Xhosa. And we know what happened with Dinizulu, the late King, the Zulu king, who amongst the Boers was a victim of the Anglo-Boer War, who were incarcerated as prisoners of war in that island next to Namibia and Angola called St. Helena, where, even with the Bambata rebellion, you remember those chiefs who were there in KZN, they were also incarcerated in those islands. That's the history. And some will tell you that even the Xhosa king amongst the tribes that was beheaded in the Eastern Cape. So those are the atrocities that we are saying, that as far as traditional leaders in this land, they've never been engaged when it comes to, as we are saying, that in 1994, as much as SALGA was incorporated and recognized by the ANC, the traditional leadership would have also been given that platform to function as a governing or governance of this party, part of the government, in that the monarchs can appoint their premiers, they can appoint their mayors, they can appoint their MMCs, or they can appoint their MECs. That is what we have been expecting in these 30 years, that how come we don't have part of the monarchs within the governance of South Africa? Because some of them, they even went abroad to study, they came back up into the country, even in South Africa. We know that many descendants of the monarchs are qualified academically, because this is something that we know that it began in 1912 when the delegates were sent to say, go and fight for this land. So those are the issues that we're expecting to say, when is this copter going to stop being a mouthpiece for colonizers and actually recognize the traditional leaders that were disposed of in power by the colonizers? So it's a painful history. So we're saying that, there were treaties that were signed, and this is something that I wanted to ask Chief Tekiso, because these were issues that we know he didn't like to talk about, but as we know that these are the issues that we are saying that could the key, that the reason why we don't see our leaders participating in provincial and national government, especially in these 2024 elections, where we're expecting a revolution, that the current status quo of colonialism has to be displaced off. Could these treaties be the reason why they here are compromising? They haven't been able to exercise the native authority that they've had for centuries before colonizers came to dispose their power here and limited them to their regions where they are staying. So that's my submission for the space.
Thank you, El Nino. Oh, okay. Before we go to Rachel, I think we are going to have to give the chief ithuba lokuthi aresponde ku-El Nino. But I see uMam Nomsa isandla sakhe siphakeme. Mam Nomsa, what do you have to say? And I will also say, before we go to Mam Nomsa, please guys, if you are here, just make sure that you request for the mic so that you can also participate and help to build this conversation. Yeah, Mam Nomsa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. I wanted to ask again and say that to the chiefs, our ruling party has really failed us and didn't do well in terms, even with the multi-party democracy. It has never worked. It will never work for South Africa, because if you look, who are we multi-partying with? Those are the people who have no interest or even regard of us as South African. Here we are today still sitting and saying that apartheid never ended. Actually, black people are still marginalized and looked down upon in their own space and country. The contra-lesser agreement that the government had at the time, they left behind a lot of, as it has been said by El Nino, a lot of responsibility and leadership from our traditional leaders in the land. I don't think we would be having a land issue and a border issue if our kings were given their full responsibility, as the king has alluded to the initial democracy agreement. So we have never had a democracy that worked for us in South Africa, and we have never had a government that leads us as its people. But I saw as it goes that your regular the councillors in different areas of the country actually acting and doing more of damage with the responsibility of the kings, because you find especially in urban areas kings don't come forward and are not even present to guide and to intervene in our day-to-day issues and struggles. So as we move forward, I'd like to know from the king, besides the fact that they were very much included in, especially when it comes to health issues. Like I've worked a lot with traditional healers when I was coordinating infectious diseases, be it your TB and your HIV. I saw them very active there, and that was one wing and one part of our lives in our communities, in their health, because for whatever reason, they felt that at that time, they can just little bit be roped in. And even then, it wasn't for our interest, because you find we still there are if I would say divided people. There's traditional healers, sangomas, there's Jewish people, there's churches people, there's everyone. It seems like it also brought a further divide in the understanding of us as South African black people in our own land. And that distorted our picture, and also to a certain extent exacerbated the current social ills we're sitting with. So from the point that we are right now as South Africans, I'd like to understand from the king, in terms of the current ruling government and the way forward, especially on all the issues I've touched, what do they envisage as the way to go about, let alone visiting and getting informed about what happened prior 1994. Now, as a way forward to say, let's bring back our wealth, let's bring back our land, let us be governed by our traditional leaders. We had our communities complaining about the lawlessness of the current judicial system that doesn't talk to us. Police were even saying we need to be taught on how a bail, what is a bail, and why should a criminal be given a bail to go further to terrorize and further victimize the victims when they are granted bail by the Western courts that are sitting within our communities, where our matters are brought before the courts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mam Nomsa. Again, let me remind you guys that soon we will be having one of our leaders joining us. We've got the confirmation, as we've been asking. And there's so many things that we've already achieved through this space, and there's so many things that we're still going to be announcing. Some very, very big impact that we have managed to have into supporting our party and into raising our voice and make sure that we are the part of this revolution. But let us, before we go to Rachel, let us go to Chief so that he can respond. Chief.
Hey, brother, greetings and everyone. Thanks a lot that you gave me again the opportunity to respond a little on this. Although my knowledge is more into the law and the other part, that's where my specialties are. But to put our people at ease, we have been meeting several times with traditional leaders, although our meetings are getting sabotaged by these political organizations that are claiming to be representing us as traditional leaders, because we are divided ourselves as traditional leaders. Don't think that we are speaking in one voice, and we are not speaking in one voice. We are so much divided, and we are trying to organize ourselves through the quotas that we are calling in each other's court. Like now, I'm gonna be going to Western Cape to attend the court of another traditional leader who, on the 8th, will be appearing in court for the evictions that they are trying to evict him from the land that he has been occupying. So we are going there as traditional leaders and the experts of the traditional law, that there is no way that you can evict the man who is owning the land in accordance with the cultures and traditions and these judgments. There are a few judgments that we have won internationally, and we've won cases in South Africa. So it is hard to work within the system, the South African system, because first thing first, when you want to challenge someone in the part of the law that that person understands, and that the law is designed to help that person to have a smooth government. So obviously you will be excluded. So we can't force ourselves and say we've been included on anything. We've been included. Others who are earning salaries, but you have others who are not even taking that salary, and you have a lot of them, like 10 that I know so far, that we don't even take salaries. Despite that, they recognize us, but we don't take salaries, because we felt that if we take salaries, it's like we're accepting comfort while our people are suffering. So it's an issue of principles again, that our traditional leaders have been cornered into money-driven people who accept money for land and money for this, money for that, but they can't be firm to say, we don't want money, we want shareholding. Example, the perfect example, and I will call everyone to really even do investigation and inspection on this issue on the Glassheart Diamond mine. I fought for a 50% shareholding of the community, and as we speak, we signed the contract 3 weeks ago. Now we are concluding the mine has to start, but this time not under the terms of the ANC. We agreed that the mining license will be under the community. You are bringing the machinery to mine. And then that automatically says we are thinking of how the economy can work for our people as Bakwena in the land so that they can start benefiting from the wealth of their own forefathers. Now, all that is happening is that a lot is being taken away from us, including all the mines that have operated on all our lands in South Africa. We haven't seen the benefits of those lands, and they're still operating even today. When you go to Richards Bay, there's trucks going there. But as traditional leaders, we must start asking ourselves, where is the minerals going? Where is the tax for that mineral? Who purchased that mineral? How is that mineral leaving the country? What is happening? There are quite a lot of things. So, but because we are excluded from the system, that is why we had to partner, join hands with parties like the MK, because it has the vision, and its vision is in line with the vision of the tribal authorities and traditional leaders. And we see where we are going as the organization. And believe you me, good people, what we need to start doing is to stop institutionalizing our problem, but start fixing our problem in a way that we do not involve these criminals. ANC are criminals. Once you even call police, you are even calling the extension of the same criminals who are doing the same thing. So despite that, some of them are our brothers and are our sisters. But the system that they are following is the one that we are challenging its independence and its sovereignty when it comes to saving the interest of our people. So in a very short thing is, there is really nothing that I can really say, but to say to our people only this: we have the opportunity through voting to sit down and have the discussion and changing this book, this Bible book that was written by the Israelites. Change this document. It's not working. Because the people who wrote this document had no interest of black people. We didn't write the Constitution in 1994. Let's understand this thing. You still have Act of 74. So there is no Constitution that was amended or any laws that were amended. All these laws were fine-tuned to defend the white monopoly capital. So the status quo is there. There are things that are happening, but let's not say our traditional leaders are in charge, because they haven't realized the power that they have. Unfortunately for me, I am a sovereign man. That is why I am not a voter, but I'm encouraging the people who are on my kingdom and the people across all kingdoms to say, register yourself, go and vote MK. Don't even compromise. Immediately after the election, the results when they are out, if MK didn't win, remove all of yourself on the voters roll with delegitimizing the entire IEC system, because it's really corrupt and not working. So there's a plan. It's just that if all traditional leaders were brave enough or have enough mind, those that strength to actually say it as it is, because we are saying a lot of things, but it looks like we are too comfortable with the system. Despite that, we as the MK, we are saying we are going to vote. We are not happy with the Constitution, but we are going to vote. The reason we are going to vote is because we want a peaceful transition. But if corruption comes at the helm of defending even criminals with our own peace, then there must be an action. Everything has repercussions. We can't. It's like it or not, we can't. The people on the voters' roll, needs to start understanding that the power that they are having, if they do not use it and they stay without going and making a mark, they are actually selling the country faster than ANC, because they're giving it in the hands of the same ANC that has been doing all the atrocities that are happening to our people. So it is very simple, the verification of true evil. After that, we change the system. We are not comfortable with the system. We are not happy with the Constitution. We are not going to go anywhere. Immediately after the elections, we want a full pronunciation of all the changes being done with immediate effect, and the interim Constitution being put into place by our own people, our own kingdoms, our own. We don't want to start discussing issues with white monopoly capital. Any whiteness that comes among us wanting to live with black people has a problem, because they rejected us before. We didn't reject them. We welcomed them on our land. They tend to be devils and demons, and they started wanting to kill our people and take what rightfully belongs to us. So in closing of my shorter statement, our health sector needs to be reformed, to good people, because I, for one, I haven't took a tablet in quite a long time. We use quite a lot of herbs, so I don't want to dwell on the health issues, because I, for one, I advocate for utilization of our African herbs as a solution to our problems that we have in our own health, because I advocate for non-GMO. That is me. That is why I am running an agri college to educate our people about the smartest way of planting without using GMO. So I am for Russia because they say non-GMO. So I'm for Russia. So thank you, good people. That's my little 2 cents. And I will be driving. My apology. I'll be driving for the next 30 minutes. I won't be able to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, since you are saying that for the next 30 minutes you won't be able to speak, I see that El Nino's hand is up. El Nino, maybe, but Chief, are you able to hear us? Chief, are you able to hear us? Okay, El Nino. I think maybe let's wait until he's back, and then because I assume that you have your hand up because you wanted to say something or to respond to something, and then let us just go straight to Rachel. But what is obvious, guys, is that we are up against the system. I like what the Chief has said. We are up against the system. It is not the people that we are up against. It is the system that is suffocating us, and it is the system that needs to be changed or dismantled or be restarted or whatever. But it is definitely the system. While on that, Rachel, what do you have to say about the system that is oppressing us?
No, good evening, comrades. Unidentified has put it very, very nicely when he was speaking about the United Arab Emirates and how it's actually how we have our chiefs, how they are controlling the different states, right? And make no mistake, I'm Muslim, right? Make no mistake, what the chief is saying here, even in Islam, in the Quran, what they tell us to use, as medication has got nothing to do with what we have now to help us. They do recognize, like, if you speak about things like cancer, serious sicknesses, right? There's treatments for it. But as the chief has said, many herbs and many whatever, we have that. And don't forget that Bill Gates actually went to India, because if you look at India, they have lots of herbs, and most of their plants has got healing properties, like black seed oil and stuff. We have the black seed, they make it into oil. It doesn't taste good, but it's got all the healing properties. And when he went there, he wanted to actually corrupt it, the whole system. That is where that professor came in, and the farmers. And they started they rose up and went with their tractors into the cities. And he went away because before that, he vaccinated children that died, right? And then he came to Africa, and he is currently involved with the seeds here. So when he's done with us, you will not be able to take what you say in your kitchen. This tomato this tomato is gone off. I'm taking it, I'm putting it in the yard where your little garden is for your kitchen, because that seed will not grow. What they want to do is, for you to grow a plant, you have to go buy a seed that belongs to them. From where does this little Bill Gates come? From America. Who is he? He's Jewish, right? But he's in my eyes, he's a Zionist, because he does everything for profit. He goes all the way for profit. And before the chief left, he said that our constitution was dealt with. He says that there were made changes in 1995 in America. But guys, the role that America plays in destroying countries in this world is incredible. And the way that we allow it, it's incredible. If you look at, I've never in my life thought that people would be looking at children dying and nobody can do anything about it. I never thought we will have such ungodly people, but it is happening. And if you look, I was just looking at chicken. I was saying to myself, but what is this about this? That we want to be like America, that we're doing things that America is so great. What is it? And I was looking at chickens, right? And if you look within the BRICS countries, a lot of people get chicken from America. And we know that America thinks nothing of Africa. So the chicken that they wanted to give us was after they take the healthy meat, white meat from the chicken, and then give us the scraps, right? And I'm thinking to myself, but this ANC, the more I hear of the ANC, I can't believe that my eyes wasn't closed to the mistakes of the ANC. But I think there wasn't another party that I could give myself to, right? Because the ANC doesn't look at people that can help. The ANC buys people. And those that they buy are corrupt people, illiterate people, and they do what they want to, right? So now, are you telling me within the BRICS family, within the countries that's friendly, that's not even BRICS, there is no other country that can have that 20% chicken in the whole world where we can create jobs and send chicken to the BRICS countries. It's chicken, it's pork. There's a few things that America gives to us which we don't need because we can't even trust it. Why can we not trust it? Guys, I am not a scientist, but I can tell you people today where I stay, there were people that, COVID. To me, COVID didn't start when we heard about COVID. COVID started earlier than what we want to say. The COVID, what do we call it? It's not a sickness. It is what they spread. How they work in the CIA. It started earlier than that. How do I know that? I had a brother that taught in El Dorado Park, and he had a friend. It was my friend and my brother. She was teaching, and she was telling she was teaching. She had a matric accounting class, and while she was teaching, she told the people, you know what? Just give me a few seconds. I just want to go out because I want to. I feel a bit. I want to breathe a little bit. She went back. Then they took her to Landmet. She stayed there for 2 weeks. Came back. Went back to school. The same thing happened. Okay. They took her to a hospital in Joburg. They didn't have the equipment there. My friend was checking up on her, and then she would tell us how she's going because we're far from Joburg. She said I skipped one day. When I went the next day, their child was double her size. And she wanted to see nobody because she didn't want anybody to see her in that way. She passed on very young. After that, she was very close to my brother. My sister-in-law phoned my sister, and we're not aware my brother is sick or anything. And my sister says, you know what? I'll be on my way. They on their way to my brother. And I'm like, oh, what? No, his wife said we better come before he dies. He couldn't breathe. He was sleeping the whole night on the lawn. I'm like, what are you talking about? He died. And they don't know of what he died. Then it was also a breathing problem because in the hospital, they put him on a ventilator. And when they put you in an incubated stage, just know you're not going to open your eyes. It wasn't a sickness. It was something that was already spread. And by the time we heard of it, people died already. People died already. Then they come with this medication, which we all have to take. I'm telling you where I'm staying. People that were children of doctors died because they died of heart attacks and they're 30 years old. They died of strokes and they're in their 20s. We are actually scared because we had a wave here. We had somebody in the department that told everybody, guys, go. We have to go for this thing. He was so scared that he went for his vaccination. He actually resigned and he was a health freak. The man is in his grave, young as he is. So this wasn't something that was like, because we know now we're going towards winter, we would read in the newspaper before, this is what strains of flu that they had wherever, right? The way America is controlling us, the world, and through medication, it's unbelievable. But why are they controlling us? It's because we have gone too lazy. It's as the chief has said, we have gone too comfortable with systems that we did not invent, that we found here. We became part of it and we said, okay, this is life. This is life. Now we're going to lead this life. We never sat and actually thought and say, but I can do X, Y, and Z. And that is where President Zuma came in. The minute when he spoke about, let us get into manufacturing, that means owning the means of production. That is when he was kicked out. That is when he was kicked out because we know as children, we hardly got the flu. Hardly got the flu. Hardly wore jerseys. But when, because of what our parents fed us at home, we hardly got all this, and we didn't have fast food chain stores. It's because of what our parents were feeding us at home from their little gardens, even in the yard. But if you get that day at temperature, all I remember is there was a red bottle of medicine. We got it from this Indian doctor, and it worked in a day or two. Now we have everything. And if you go onto the net, people will tell you conspiracy theories and all that. Guys, I've seen many videos from doctors where they say, but there is a cure for cancer. There is. But because they invested so much money in the medication for it, they are not going to let it go. They will rather pay with a life than with profits. So saying that South Africa cannot change the economy and saying that South Africa cannot change systems is a big lie. Unidentified has put it nicely, man. If you go to Dubai, you will get everybody there in this beautiful city with a big high buildings doing their Dubai things. If you go to Abu Dhabi, you're not going to do there what you want to do. If you go to another state, you're not going to do there what you want to do. And there's different people that are there. Where did we go wrong in South Africa? Because if you look at our youth today, guys, I'm in education. If you think that we have children, you must go sleep again, get up and ask me again. I'm going to give you the same answer. Our children is gone. Why? Because as our Department of Health on our space has said that we did not play our role. And she asked the chief, what role are you going to play in ensuring that our communities are right? And that is where the law comes in. When you speak, as the chief has said, about indigenous law, and you practice that indigenous law in your communities, you will not have people asking for bail because they would not be in jail. Because according to indigenous law, the minute somebody does something wrong against the rules and regulation of that community, that country, that whatever, there is somebody in place to take you to court according to an indigenous law. And indigenous law was never something that pushed people to go as far as where South Africa go. Guys, before I end, do you remember in South Africa, this very country where we stay, we were shocked when we heard that adults are attacking children because they believe that it can cure AIDS. We were shocked when we heard that. And then the shock went away when we heard, but there's a sexual ring, there's people that's being sold human trafficking, and around us are these big names that you see in Hollywood. These big names in the porn industry. So where did our people see that? The minute And people don't like censorship. The minute you have a dirty book going around in a community, expect something like that that's going to happen. And then how did we look at that stage? We look like this black, vicious people from Africa that does that vicious things only to see now. But this doesn't come from us. Look what they have been doing in America. America is a group of people because they're not even a nation. They're a group of people that come from all over the world with their weird ideas that they call democracy. Uh, they corrupted and did so much of damage to the world that I can't believe that South Africa still have relations with America. Because if you sit and you break down and see, but what do we trade with this country? Is there? Can we do it in Africa? Can we do it in the BRICS countries? Then you can truly cut that people off. They went even as far as corrupting some of the Arab states. Because if you look at Osama bin Laden, where did he get his training? In America. And you would wonder, but why are there so many? If you say that these people are doing X, Y, and Z to the Palestinians, why are there so many in America? Until you read now. But if people had nowhere to go, if they want to get out of there, run away from Israel, they run to those Western countries. And as Netanyahu, he said, it's the easiest thing to do and he made reference to Iran. He says, you spread the movies, and those people will see this is how the Americans live. I want to live like that. And that is what happened in South Africa. And that is what we must change by if we say we have our tribal leaders, we have our chiefs, they will be in charge, and they will see that the matter doesn't go as far as the courts that we have now because nothing would be happening here. If you do the smallest of things, we have it in indigenous law. There are repercussions, and we must start respecting ourselves. If you say, I am getting married today, and my tradition says, this is how I get married, for what do you want to go buy a white dress and have a second wedding? That has got nothing to do with your tradition. And that's why we are corrupted. Because you want to have your bread, your butter, jam, peanut butter, and everything on it. You want to eat it all. That's why we're confused. We have to start respecting ourselves as a nation. And then you will see the respect come from outside. But you do not mess with that people. They're messing with us because we don't respect ourselves. Thank you, comrades.
Yeah, I hear you, Rachel. Our politicians, they want to have everything: butter, jam, peanut butter, everything. It's all about their stomachs. It's what we call politics of stomach. I see we have a new speaker before we go to unidentified because I still believe that Isandla Ska El Nino is up because he wanted to engage Chief. So we will go directly to Don. Don, over to you.
Good evening to cadres of progressive thinking. But I want to answer this question. Does multi-party democracy work for South Africa? It doesn't. And I want to concur with the latter speaker, Rachel. You know, there's this thing we call a divide and rule. Some say divide and conquer, where you'll find that someone comes into someone's house. He divides everyone in that house. No one agrees with each other. They start hating each other. And you'll find that this person is busy benefiting from the resources of this house. These ones, they don't care about what this person is doing. You know, some therefore they are even working with this person just to spite the other that we are benefiting, but no one is benefiting from the house until all the resources are gone. Now it's just like South Africa. You know, I always say to people, you should stay away from the media. Must stay away from newspapers. You know, this thing of thinking you are educated, you are reading Sunday Times, you are reading Mail and Guardian, Sunday Tribune, you know, that Sunday paper. You must stop that thing. That thing will damage your mind. A lot of comrades, a lot of citizens are damaged. You speak to someone beautiful, and they've got a PhD, but it's like you are speaking to a grade one, a scholar, because this person has got nothing to offer. It's only nonsense that is filled in this person's head. It's like someone, you meet someone. I met this professor at the airport in Cape Town when I was flying back this week to Joburg. Hey, this guy was telling me about Zuma. Zuma, this. I asked him a question. I said, hey, tell me. So it's been more than 6 years Zuma vacated his position. Have they ever found that money that you are talking about? And how much was it? Because you guys will keep on saying Zuma took money. Took money from who? And how much was that money? Because no one says how much is that money. And why was he never prosecuted for that money? And again, you're telling me as a professor, you know you are not educated, you are a learned person. You are telling me about Zuma selling a country. Who did Zuma sell the country to? And how did we get that country back? How much did we pay for that country? You know? And you know, all these things, this is a strategy by intelligent agencies that they use. We focus on something. You know, right now, I'll tell you, Konto, we are focusing on the AKA story. You must just ask yourself, why now? Why now? It's a distraction for people to focus somewhere else because something big is happening. So whilst you are focusing there, there's something else that there's going to be another distraction again. You know why? Because we are divided. Not just as South Africa, but as Africa, we are divided. And that is why they are able to take all the resources from Africa. It's a few countries that have rebelled against the system. The system is designed, Mkondo, for us to keep us deaf, dumb, and blind to everything that the white man has come to do. Now, when you look at South Africa, you will see that South Africa has been divided according to ownership in terms of the resources that South Africa has. You go to the mining industry, look at who owns the mines. Look at when we need to buy things like fuel. Who do we buy it? We don't buy it where it's cheap. We buy it from a reseller, Total, BP, Shell, who buy it from Russia and steal it from other countries like your Syria and so on and so forth. You know, it's the same as Nigeria. Nigeria is owned by Shell. You ask any person, they will tell you Nigeria is oil rich. Yes, Nigeria is oil rich, but the resources or the infrastructure was built by Shell. It's owned by Shell. And the distribution rights, therefore, also is owned by Shell, meaning that the government is owned by Shell because the money, the revenue comes from oil. If you go to Congo now, you capture Congo, your jet fuel. DRC is very strategic. That's why there's a war there. Very strategic, just like South Africa. Now, in landing, because now I have to land, South Africa is a powerhouse in Africa, whether you like it or not. I'm telling you now. When black people when we're told that we are in power, of which we've never been in power, they took away all the nuclear weapons. They took away the enriched uranium from Pelindaba here in Pretoria West. And then they said, okay, here's this political power. But there was no political power because the ANC has always been controlled by outsiders. That is why when they came back from exile, the select few that they took, they gave them houses in the burbs, they gave them BMWs and Mercedes Benz. And those that they did not like, they made them to be outcasts. Some were killed. I don't want to get into that one, but I just want us to look at, because it's always important to look at where did it all start in order to understand where we are. Because you cannot just come with a thumb sucking and say we are here. We have always been enslaved. The Constitution that is said to be in inverted commas the best in the world is nonsense. It enslaves us. This Constitution, it enslaves us at the banks. They make us to pay more. If a white person goes and asks for a loan, they will gladly give that white person a loan for a truck. When I'm condo, you'll go to the bank, you're asking for a loan for a truck, they will not. But if you want to buy a sports car, they'll give you a loan. Why? Why? Because with that one, with the truck, there's emancipation. There's wealth in emancipation. There's economic emancipation. But with a sports car, likely you're going to crash it and die. So we must always be kept at the bottom. When it comes for a position of a CEO, they look at that position. Is it strategic? What can we get? All these black CEOs that you see that they've appointed in the banks, that is just a marketing strategy. That's a screensaver, comrades. It's done deliberately because there's more to gain. Government owns 15% of ABSA, which means whatever ABSA does, government is a majority shareholder, a single majority shareholder in ABSA, is also accountable, meaning government will turn a blind eye. Government is a 15% shareholder in Woolworths. Woolworths sells toxic food. Anything that is sold at Woolies is toxic, is not good for you, is the same as the nonsense that is sold in McDonald's. But why do these companies get away with all of this? It's because the leaders that you have do not have a say. They don't. I mean, right now we are looking at the ANC and the DA forming a coalition. Already the ANC has adopted the policies of the DA in government. I don't know if many of you just follow government or you just pay rates and that's it. I know with Abu El Nino, they raid a lot and they chase a lot of these Pakistanis. But do you look at the policies that have been passed in the last 6 years? Have you looked at them? Have you looked at the ramifications of those policies? Or it's just that it's government, better. Hey, you know what? No, the policies, the only thing that is short now, Mkondo, is for us not to even have elections. If there can be that 2/3 to say, no elections for the next 15 years, it can happen. But comrades, let me not take a lot of your time. I'm just saying that the multi-party system will not help us because already we're enslaved. This is where the colonizers are driving us because they just want us not to get along with each other. If you look at someone who's supporting the EFF, they don't get along with someone who's supporting the ANC. They don't get along with someone who's supporting Umkhonto. They don't get along with all these other black-led parties. They don't get along. Do you know why? They are funders. Look at the funders. He who funds you controls you. He who feeds you controls you. They'll tell you what to do. Most of these people, they don't even like pronouncing on Israel that they support Israel. But because they are getting money from Israel, they have to do what the Israelis tell them to do. your IFPs, your DAs. You look at those 7 parties that have said, Bona, they're going with Israel. They get money from there. South Africa is ruled by NGOs, comrades. NGOs, they run this country because they are funded by the CIA, they're funded by the MI6, they are funded by Mossad. When you look, even the media, your News 24s, your Daily Mavericks, all of those, they are funded by intelligence agencies, the agencies that Zuma was referring to say the invisible men, because you don't see them. They are here. They are amongst us, even here. They are here, they are listening to us. They don't like what we are talking about. But let me rest for now and listen. Maybe I will add later.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don. We are definitely blessed today. We are learning lots of new things. I see the hand of Chief there is up. That means Chief is back. But before we go to Chief, we're supposed to go to unidentified. Okay. But I see Isanda Siga Mam Nomsa si Pageme. I don't know, Mam Nomsa, if you wanted to respond to Don or something.
Not at all, Nkonto. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to say I have just shared what was shared about the ballot papers that are coming on the 29th of May 2024 as we are voting. I had shared it with the space, so if there's Umkhonto leadership, please, at that level to verify and deny what is happening, because I know the court case is still coming, but to have a public display of that as we are focusing on these issues, I thought that it's one issue that we should be looking at it as well. If leadership is of Umkhonto is here to respond to that. On the other hand, I just wanted to just appreciate the fact that Umkhonto has been supported so overwhelmingly, as we are seeing and hearing from the chief that we have their support in terms of moving forward. But if we can just look and glance at what was posted about 5-6 minutes ago about the voter registration for the 29th of May 2024, please. And may we give the opportunity, if the Umkhonto leadership is present, to put us at ease in that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Please, Chief, allow me to give the mic to our new speaker. We always try to accommodate new speakers so that everyone can have that enough chance to have their submission. Because when we allow them to come by the or towards the end, we kind of limit them, and then people they don't have that freedom. And let us quickly go to Njabuliso, our new speaker. Njabuliso, before we go to Njabuliso, unidentified, do you have anything that you wanted to chip in quickly? Remember, guys, we go to unidentified is my co-host. It's just that we're having these technical issues lately of adding co-host. So, do you want to have any? Do you have anything that you want to chip in before Njabuliso attacks?
Let me have Ngabliso first, and then I'll come immediately after him.
Okay, Njabuliso, over to you.
Good evening, comrades. Hopefully, I'm audible wherever I am. I know.
100%.
Okay, thank you. Look, comrades, I think, one, let me appreciate the platform that we're having, but I think our discussion should be well structured and precise to the topic. And the topic is that does multi-party democracy works in South Africa? And I think most of the speakers, we tend to be digressing and discussing other issues that are not related to the topic. And it may cause us to lose other listeners and followers in the near future. But however, let me get directly to the point. The point is, yes, we do have multi-party democracy in South Africa because we have various parties that are registered with the IEC. that are participants in either in your legislature, be it the provincial legislature or the National Assembly. They are part and parcel of the legislature. But
Is Njabuliso still audible to you guys? Because I can't hear him now.
We also cannot hear him.
comrades,
Njabuliso?
am I audible now?
No, we lost you. Now you are audible now.
Oh,
But we kind of lost you for like 2 minutes, I think, or almost 2 minutes.
okay. I was saying democracy as a concept in South Africa, when we talk about the franchise, it does work. We do go for elections. But are the people governing, and is democracy in the true sense of the principle of democracy working in South Africa? And my view is that it is not. We do have multi-party democracy because we have various parties in parliament and legislatures that are making laws. But are those laws meant for the people? Yes, they may be meant for the people, but they are not working for the people in a sense that there are certain people that have influenced our democracy through money. And whatever decisions that are taken by those that governs us, who are supposed to be governing on behalf of the people, they take decisions that are not meant to assist the people or to serve the people, but the decisions that are meant or that are serving certain groupings of people. In this case, big business is the one that is benefiting from our democracy. But in terms of multi-party democracy, I would say to you, if we're looking at the franchise on, if we're looking at the franchise only, yes, it is working because we are voting, several people are voting for various parties. But practically, it is not because we have the deep state that runs this country, and it will be running this country for as long as the people of South Africa are lying on their backsides and doing nothing about what is happening in this country. Thank you very much.
If I can just quickly come in there, thank you very much for your positive contribution, especially on the issue of us aligning all the time with the topic that has been discussed. I think that is very, very important. Maybe even the topic itself, if I could just come in there, maybe saying that, okay, is multi-party democracy work for South Africa? Working may in itself not be a very clear-cut kind of a descriptive word. Maybe if we were to look at what do we mean about that, as you have rightfully said, that indeed we do have a multi-party democratic system. Is it a favorable one for who? Because in here, as it has already been said quite a number of times earlier on, that the having a multi-party democracy as it stands, given our history and background as a country, makes itself to be open to number of abuse by big business, who will then use it as a means of dividing the majority so that they will end up not necessarily getting into a particular position that will be a threat to the establishment, which is the case right now. And second, of course, the issue of the NGOs, which is part of the multi-party democracy that we have, because in a democratic state, we expect to have all these institutions, as it is said, that they are there to concretize the functionality of democracy, but it's not always the case, because some of them will be counter-revolutionary in many ways, as we have seen in terms of the NGOs that are there. Therefore, one may say that while multi-party democracy works, for the country, that yes, we do have a number of political parties that are able to contest the elections, that yes, it is working, but it is something that is not good for the country, especially if the country has got to address the issues of redress, that is the imbalances of the past. Therefore, the multi-party system seems not to be the one that is right, that is correct to be applied up until such state of near equilibrium is reached, that then there could be a fair level of operation for everyone, for every party, for any person to be able to establish his or her own party and contest fairly. As it stands right now, there is no fair way of starting a political party, irrespective of what it can be standing for. It will not do well, or it will do well because of reasons that are different from the issues of credibility. It will be because of the resources, the financial resources that gets to be sponsored, because it is serving a certain agenda. But I think we could just go on and hear other people commenting on the topic, and let me throw it back to you, my host.
Okay, I see that Uchif and Samoni. Let's go to El Nino. El Nino.
Thanks, leaders. Hey, I've been holding my emojis because I don't want to forget the points that I wanted to say. But it's okay, since Chief Tiki so is not here. He raised important issues when he talked about the sovereign wealth. We've talked a lot broadly on your MK spaces on that issue about how our natives are displaced from benefiting from the sovereign wealth our minerals are bringing. Can be a simple thing such as coal, and it goes broad to the diamonds that he was talking about. Because recently, I think in 2021, they say there's this belt that moves. I don't know these tropics. There are these landmarks. I forgot what they call them. It's like yes, the tropics. Just that I'm remembering the famous one of that one that goes through Limpopo. They say there's this belt that moves. I think from KZN, Free State, where then Northern Cape, where the Kimberley mines where diamonds were found, and then it moves along towards northwest, and then it moved towards where the diamonds are found in near Walvis Bay in Namibia. There's a recent discovery there's diamonds as well as oil. There's very, very rich minerals along that belt, and we cannot undermine uranium as well, which we know is mined lapha in Namibia. So when he talked about this issue, my mind just kept on to say, I wanted to question him to say, as he was responding back on these issues, we're asking him about the treaties that nothing is benefiting the traditional leadership, as we are saying. Part of multi-party democracy includes traditional leadership. Contralisa, which we know it's very, very, I think, I think with the and one of the speakers we were having on these issues about illegal immigration, they had talked about how compromise about Contralisa are when it comes to that issue. And then there's another the department that was changed to Ukokta, which we know Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma he was heading. I don't know who the minister, because there's always shuffles. Namanje Sizulu Pope, it has been suspended. There's always shuffles and all kinds of backstabbing in Ramaphosa's regime. So with that issue, Remember that 2017, the issue of land expropriation without compensation came about. And with that, the Boers confessed during those parliamentary consultations across the districts, regions, and provinces that the Boers annexed land from i-region yabeTswana, lapha eNorthwest. The mines that are belonging, the platinum mines, and Chief was talking about Ilona as well. I just wanted to hear him on that point when he was talking about that. Then there was also minerals that were annexed by the Boers from Eswatini in Mpumalanga. I don't know whether it's gold or just that I'm not familiar with that region of Kretsibande along Emelo, Piet Retief, Dabo Chief Albert, when you go towards that border, you know, those sub-districts that are there. I'm not sure the minerals that are there, besides the coal that is dominant. The Boers confessed. So I had wanted to ask Chief Tekis Ukuthi, have they, since those issues came about, received complaints or claims, you know, that there are UN disputed territories around the world? And one of these issues that kept coming up was the issue of Lesotho, to say they were claiming certain regions of KZN, I think around Forecast, they were claiming certain regions of Eastern Cape, they were claiming certain regions of Gauteng and Free State as well, that they belonging to them. But Utlaisin Munyela last year rebugged that issue to say no, this issue was withdrawn from the United Nations disputed territories that were annexed by colonizers. So that came to my mind because part of what needs to be done in this country is the integration of the inland countries, the Lesotho as well as Eswatini. And we can also include Botswana because, as we are saying, if the Boers confessed during land expropriation without compensation parliamentary consultations that they annexed mineral rich land from those countries, then it goes without saying that moving forward from 2024, the engagements with the governing party that shall get 2/3 majority, they will have to address those issues. As we remember, when you are talking about 1912, Chief Albert Lutole, that's why I had hoped Ulona had come back or Chief Tekisa, because he cannot undermine their role as traditional leadership. To say the very divide and conquer politics that Don was talking about, that is what was applied to sub-Saharan Africa, us here in the South. So it is with that in mind that we cannot forget those atrocities that were conducted, because it can even go earlier than 1652. History tells us that as early as 1300s, the Portuguese were exploring this continent. They tried to infiltrate the Moroccans there. You know that then it was the territory of Ikush, the Sudanese people that were over there, but they were attacked. So that the very similar issue that Chief Tekis was telling us, to say how colonizers infiltrated this country, because we are always welcoming. We were not territorial and being xenophobic, if I can put it in that term, and annex the illegal foreigners that were invading this country, this continent as a whole. So I'll wait for him to come, because we cannot undermine, guys, that issue. We know it can come up anytime. As much as Teko, about Tracy Munyela were saying that, no, that issue was thrown out of court, nothing says that it cannot be brought up by the inland countries and those countries whose mineral wealth was annexed by the Boers. Because we know that this can open Pandora's box. When I was engaging Unkatlap Teles, our MK speaker on this platform, I always refer to this issue to say, in the aliens or colonizers displacing our native kingdoms in this country, it can be a Pandora's box. Because once you open that Pandora's box, it can either be good in that it can, as we are saying, we want progressive engagements to say part of us being decolonized is recognition of traditional leadership that MK or Babu Zuma is always talking about when he's mobilizing people. Or, as we are saying, it can be bad in that if certain monarchs or dynasties refute including that word. That's where this issue can actually divide us. As we are saying that the colonizers knew when they annexed the land to say, when these people, it's time for them, they want to chase us away from this country of theirs, this continent of ours, we'll place a ticking time bomb. I think this is the reason why even Namibia to this point, because they are like us, 70% of the land is in ownership of Europeans, trusts that are held by those colonizers. And we mustn't forget that Namibia was part of South Africa. So moving forward beyond this issue from 2024, these are the serious non-negotiable engagements that MK will have to entertain and be robust in these issues. As you said, we know what happened in 1912, and we know what happened in Katisabo 1652. It's the reason why South Africans had to be delegated ukuthi hambani niyosilwela ukuyolwela izwe lethu ukuthi umhlaba wethu mawubuye. For me, that is the grand ultimate vision that we must think of moving forward. Let me lend the leaders.
Thank you very much, El Nino. I think your points are taken and they are very much understandable given the background that you are giving in here. And I think they could not necessarily be undermined. All what I could say, maybe in reaction to what you have just said, is that the changing of the constitution and the realigning of South African demographics that we want to be taken care of after the election should not be an end by itself, but a means to get into a much more comprehensive approach of redressing the wide areas that were affected in the past for time immemorial. I think that one is very important, that it will definitely have to be considered. But I think it will start with what Nkosi had said earlier on in terms of they themselves wanting to continue, because they are not necessarily starting, but continue their engagement. They are not united as different royal houses themselves. Of course, there are those that are co-opted by the ruling ANC at the moment in time, whose interests may not necessarily be reflective of what the nations within our borders of South Africa would be wanting to gain in terms of land, but they are only just there in the ANC because they happen to get the recognition that they are looking for, and they are happy with that, which is not necessarily benefiting their respective communities. So yes, it is understandable, and I think it is in that light that when we look at our topic, we think, yes, the multi-party democracy can be said to be working, but is it what is needed by our country? Definitely no. If there are such kind of areas that needs to be addressed and addressed as a matter of agency. I will be moving on in terms of hosting, just relieving who hosts at the moment in time, and I will be wanting to hear further comments and hence coming from different people. And I'm just checking here on the list to see the speakers that had made themselves available before, because I was not available myself. So please, if you don't mind, do raise your hand so that I can recognize you and then I can just allow you time to speak.
Let's go to Uteta, my co-host.
Thank you. Data, off to you. Data, we cannot, Don, you are recognized, but please hold on up until we see if we can be able to get to data first, and then we will move to Don Law after that. Okay.
Uteta dropped down. I'm trying to get him back on stage. Dada, I've invited you back on stage. I don't know what is happening with Uteta.
In the meantime, can I suggest if data is not coming on board, that let's give Udon Law an opportunity to speak, and then we'll, as soon as he's back, then we will be making him to be the next speaker. Don, are you with us? Take over, please.
Thank you, host. I want to. I'm glad that our esteemed colleague here, El Nino, is now audible. And I like when everyone touches on points, especially pain points when are unidentified, instead of triggers. Because when you want to solve a problem, you don't necessarily stick to pain points, because the pain points, everyone understands them. We can sit here all day, all week, all month, all year, discussing pain points. There's too many of them. But then the solution, what is the solution? When we now want to really deal with the matter at hand and grab the bull by its horns, we need to be very energetic when speaking. I remember when we used to read Mkhabulo, and I think some of you might have been young by that time. We used to attend these political lectures. And one of the things that we were taught by the comrades then, which is, does multi-party democracy work for South Africa? Of which I answered. But the biggest problem here is intolerance. And I spoke about the divide and rule approach that has been used by colonizers. But that very same divide and rule approach is now a black on black. The most hated, if not tolerated, party at the moment is the one that is providing this platform. And you ask yourself, and I will, when I'm addressing a problem, I don't want to dilly-dally. You know, sometimes you must be very straight and forward. This is the most hated party in South Africa right now. All the parties, they are talking about the leader of this party in a not so good way. They are talking about members of this party as if they are senseless. Why? It goes back to Samora Machel, to what he said, that when you see a black man, if he's liked by white people, then there's a problem. That's a sellout. And all these parties, they belong to one person. You know, they are all sellouts. Sometimes you have to take a stance when unidentified. Now I'm conto. A stance, a very unpopular stance. Especially when your mind is liberated. And once you get politically emancipated, you are able to take those stances. You are able to move yourself from a problem and be part of a solution. Now, we need to go back to what President Zuma once said. He once said that this is what the enemy wants. There must be as many parties as possible in that parliament so that at the end of the day, we don't have an outright winner, especially when we need to pass or change policies or laws. Now, there's a huge issue in the country. We are like a shithole, just like Trump said the other day, this other year. He said South Africa is a shithole because South Africa is not controlled by its lawmakers, but it's controlled by billionaires. It's controlled by banks. It's controlled by outsiders. I mean, how do you have a reserve bank that is owned by 200 shareholders, some foreign, a whole federal reserve, a whole reserve bank? Because, comrades, these are issues that we need to ponder on. These are issues that we need to discuss. We need to deliberate these issues as much as they are uncomfortable. I would rather discuss these issues than discuss umjolo. You have people that are there. If you go now and you look at the people that are owning those shares, and to actually get back the reserve bank and nationalize it, it will cost the country less than 30 million. How much money do these comrades, these ANC comrades, Lamasela Gatambo, steal per week? Less than 30 million rands, you can nationalize that reserve bank. It's there. It's part and parcel of the constitution of the South African Reserve Bank. But in order to block that, someone must control the ruling party. Someone must make sure that there is no new kid on the block. Someone must make sure that all these people that don't get along, they are divided. They are told how to vote and who to vote for. And all these policies, if you look at them, not even a single black man influenced these policies that we have in South Africa. Do you know why? Because it's the funders that bring these policies through the members of parliament. Only members of parliament can table policies in parliament. So in order for you to table your policy, your organizational policy or your country's policy, you have to capture a member of parliament or members of parliament. Comrades, are you still with me here? Because I need to understand whether you are hearing what I'm saying. As uncomfortable as it may be, and then you find these brainless people following other people saying, hey, yeah, this person is doing very well, comrade so-and-so, but comrade so-and-so is captured. We are in a state of capture or a state capture. Is it state of capture or state capture? But I think we are in a state of capture at the moment because we are captured. When they said there was a state capture, there wasn't a state capture. We were in the process of being captured. Now we're in a state of capture. Comrades, you look at people who are DGs, you look at people who are CEOs, you look at people who say they've got authority, they don't. These people that say they own something, they don't. I'll make a very good example. Reverend Chikane, Urban Pro Studios, he doesn't own that Urban Pro Studios. Do you know why? Because in as much as the percentage that they'll show, but in the background, there's Ramgro that owns about 60-something% of his company that he owns 100%. Do you get me? So, meaning he does not own it. Most of these people are caretakers. We need to address those issues. How do we address those issues? By grabbing the bull by its horn, by confronting the bull head on. We are at war right now. But the kind of war that we are in, we are not shooting each other. But we need to be very clever about it. Sholozi has done it. Remember, he went to Sanko. They thought, hey, he was dead, Sanko. They went to Gyomhlukumeza Lapha. They tried harassing him there at Sanko. But in fact, he was busy with MK. He was busy with this project. Because he knew if he had gone outright and said, yeah, here's Umkhonto, it wouldn't have happened. So it's a battle of intelligence here, comrade. We need to look at what is happening. You know, we need to gauge, you know, the forces. If you don't know the balance of forces, comrades, there's this thing called balance of forces, where you need to check whether you can win this. You can't start a war that you can't win. And this we can definitely win. Because the issue here is us changing that constitution. That constitution is the one that holds the key to unchaining ourselves as Black people. It's the one that holds the key to these cages, these economic cages that we find ourselves in. The first people to be casualties in an economic war or economic changes is Black people. If you look in this country, you look at the landscape, political landscape, you look at the economical landscape, Black people are the ones suffering the most. You look at the shacks. Have you ever seen a white squatter camp? No. Who lives in squatter camps? It's Black people. You go to Cape Town, the city that they claim to be well managed, the squatter camps that are there, they even call them concentration camps. You look at Kraaifontein, you look at Cape Juvel, there in Durbanville. You look at Danone. There's that Danone there when you are going up there, go Stellenbosch and Langapan. There's Danone when you're coming out of Cape Town. They even have double-story shacks there, Mchan. There's a Mapara there in Cape Town near the Civic Center. You won't pass there right now if you walk. But there's so many squatter camps, even in Stellenbosch, there's squatter camps. But who lives there? It's Black people. So what does that tell you? It tells you that all the parties that are there in parliament, they are not for Black people. The Black people are the least because they all, even when they have municipalities, they all go and develop white areas, white suburbs. You know, they'll go and build precincts like your Manlin Main. They'll go build your waterfalls. You know, just up the road, there's that place there, Rubbish Ridge. If you go up there, there's Rubbish Ridge and going into Tembisa. Yeah? Is that fair? You ask yourself when you go and vote, is that fair? Are those parties able to cater for our needs? Our parents died, our grandfathers died, and great-grandparents, they died in shackles economically. They might have had something to give us, but still, they did not have that freedom. Even if you have a state bank, how is it going to assist you? Is it still going to use the same rate that is used by all these other commercial banks? We all know how the bank makes money. Those that have been in the banking industry, you'll understand how the bank makes money. But let me not take too much of your time. I'm just trying to channel us, channel this discussion, because this is a very broad topic. It's not only limited to us discussing, a party, yabo data lapha, IFP. iparty or El Nino lapha or UDM, iparty abo Rachel or Action SA. No, this is about the citizens, because I believe ukuthi umkhondo is here to free those that feel trapped in this system, because the system is in black and white, and you can't liberate anyone with a gun or whatever. You need to go and change those laws that are there. And the only weapon we have is our vote. And our vote is definitely not going to Amasela. Our vote must go to someone that we know, this one, we can trust. That's why you don't even have leaders here, omkhondo, abantu abakhona sebekhethiwe structure, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to come and give them 20 million, 30 million, and black people with money. Bazobe sebelapha konke sebebhema igazi lapha, smoking cigars and driving. And what about us? It's like tenders. This employment of people, this unemployment of people is done deliberately. Let me tell you before I land now, before the Dangen, I'll tell you this thing. This tender system was designed to keep us poor. It was designed, Oguti, black people must not be able to sustain themselves. And I'll tell you why. We give them houses, although they are not working. We give them RDP houses. We know these people, they will sell this thing because they can't afford it. They can't buy electricity. They can't buy water. So they'll preach ugesi, they'll preach amanzi. Ne? But then the person who built Leander, let's take Umamkize for an example. This is an example. We take Umamkize, she builds 400 or 600 houses, the RDP, for probably 500 million or maybe 400 million. She benefits, and these few people, but these people, they only benefit salaries whilst they are working for 2 years there. And then they are unemployed. Then these people, they move in. They can't sustain themselves also. But knowing very well how the system was in terms of public works, if you had these people permanently employed because you are going to be building houses, why don't you then give them these jobs where they are permanently employed and then subsidize them on the houses as government, these low-cost houses? You are not losing anything as government. You understand? But they are sustainable because they are employed permanently. But if you give someone fish, every day that person will be waiting for you to give them fish. But if you teach them how to fish, they no longer need you because they are self-sustainable. They can feed themselves and feed their families. And that is why I say all these jobs of these unemployed people, they are there in the tender system because this is how white people knew which they will be able to chow, because they had the skills of building bridges. If you take Abomanonga, now I'm going to tell you, if you take Abomanonga, now these are big people with construction, about Joseph or Bael. These are big people with construction in South Africa. Some of you, maybe you don't know them, but these are big people. But when it's time to build a bridge, where do they go? They will go to Abo Stefanuti. They will go to Abo Bezelrit, Abo Greneka, because they have the skills and the capacity. Yeah, I don't know if comrades you are following. So I'm saying to you, before, public works used to fill potholes. Public works used to build roads. Public works used to build government institutions, buildings. Now we're renting. We're renting from some of the people that own these comrades or from the comrades themselves. If you remember, Begitele was fired. The Rusha Bangu building, you remember that one? When he was commissioner. You go here in Pretoria, who owns buildings? Gauteng, who owns these buildings that they are renting there? Even municipalities. Municipalities used to own buildings and rent it out to people that come and work so that they make money. There were companies. eThekwini municipality was not called eThekwini municipality or Durban municipality. It was called Durban Corporation. It had divisions, buses, the ones which are owned now by, I don't even want to mention. It had
Uyikwala.
kahle deda kahle angizukufa mina ade ngangifelwa. And it had even its own cars, own equipment. Do you know Transnet leases cars nationally? Did you know that? You didn't. They lease all these cars that you see. Who benefits? Let me sit down before I spill more beans. Let me just keep quiet now and I listen. But you must look at these things. You must go there to eThekwini. There was this, there's still that company, Ucrosmo, no Aqua. You know it, that, ne?
Those two
You know,
Indians.
man.
Those two Indians.
Three. No, there are three of them.
They were
don't get
brothers.
along. Lalela. There are three. They don't get along. When I was working for this very strategic department in the mineral sector, we used to sit with these guys. These guys, they used to have a party at the ICC. We used to attend with all the cost managers of all the municipalities. These guys, what they did, they went and they built an asphalt plant when not that, a mine.
I
They
know it.
sell to that. Yes, they sell to Department of Transport. They buy asphalt lapa from these guys. The whole case that yes, Rachel. But
Please, Tula John. Tula John,
but
yeah.
anyway, let me keep quiet because when we talk here, people they think we don't know what we are talking about. Their food was heated the whole 24 hours in chat. I used to drink there. I remember I was having King George there. I was going with this other individual. We were having King George there, Blue Label. I'm chat, and this is how businesses work. In fact, the person that would tell you government is lazy, actually, they're in the public sector. They are the ones that corrupt government. They are the ones that buy government officials. Even SAP, Microsoft, you name them. Comrades, I'm closing now. Why do we have auditors of AG? What's the need? Because you only need an internal auditor in either it's a council or Schedule 2 or Chapter 10 or Chapter 9 institution and SOEs and so forth. Why do we have auditors? KPMG, Ernst & Young, Inzaluba and Gobodo, Thornton, Lloyds, PricewaterhouseCoopers. PricewaterhouseCoopers, the French, they chow a lot. But why do we have them? When we've got AG, why doesn't AG capacitate itself? Because AG must audit the SOEs after having prepared themselves via their internal auditors. Why? Why? Because these people, they charge and they are corrupt. Why? Must ask yourself that question. Who benefits? Who makes the rules? Who draws up the rules of the game? Who determines the Rachel must be a supporter, El Nino must be a player and he must play forward or he must be a backline. And then who unidentified must be a midfield. Who determines who Don must be a referee or a linesman? It's politicians for a fee. But let me rest. I think I've spoken too much.
Don, this is really mouthful. This is very good. As you were talking before, I hand it over to Deda and then later to El Nino. I think I need to say this, that I wish and hope that we don't lose steam at this point in time as we're leading towards the election and when we win the election, because an important period of time will then start after that. That is where we are going to be looking at the policy formulation. It is one thing generally to say we need to change the constitution. The constitution needs to be changed. But there are nitty-gritties. They say it in this advanced English that the taste of the pudding is in whatever, the way in which they say it. The nitty-gritties are the ones that we are now referring to. And we would need, as Umkhonto Wesizwe, people with such kind of expertise and with such kind of experiences to be able to form the very strong commissions in the policy formulations, policy development, because we only if we change those aspects of life, we're going to be able to say now we have a constitution that talks to us as South Africans. We cannot necessarily just be there up there and say, okay, the constitution will change. But we will need to know exactly as to what we're talking about. Without any waste of time, let me just give the mic to Deda. And after that, we'll just move to Eldina. Your hand is recognized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. With my apologies.
El Nino.
You're clear. You can proceed, Deda. Can I come in there? I'm not too sure if Deda is talking and I cannot hear him. Can I have just some signs by maybe send me some emojis to tell me if you were able to hear Deda?
I can't hear him either.
Okay.
I think Deda will have to drop off again and then come back.
Okay. So, yeah, the Deda, if you can hear us, please drop out, and then let's have Elnina at the moment in time. Just a quick one. We will be observing once Deda is coming back, and then we can take it from there. Over to you, Elnino.
Yeah, and there are other two new speakers, Utiza Chin Umkhonto Wesizwe, but El Nino can continue.
Okay, Elnino, please take over.
Thanks, comrades. Hey, I wish Udon was here when we were discussing these issues of RDP policy on MK spaces in the previous weeks, because what he's talking about is precisely the failures of what the colonizers instituted for us. I totally agree with him. We talked about RDP, sakhuluma ngabo AGOA, khuluma ngabo ASGISA, and what was this Millennium Development Goals? We even talked about that conference that was here on economics. What was that? 2002 Millennium Development Goals. Ziningi lezi zinto, and they are integrated within the ministries, those policies. You go to health, but Millennium Development Goals and the Agenda 2030. Rachel earlier on, Nomsa, they talked earlier about the issues of e-health and the issues of Manslaughter, Lega, Bill Gates. And we did talk about how our Bill Gates are busy all over the world. Kutwana, Africa, there are certain lands, farms that he owns. He annexed from the very same Boers and colonizers that took them, because they are pushing this agenda, GMO, these genetically modified foods and seeds that they are busy with. It's part of the agenda 2030. These people know very well what they are doing, except it's not working where it's not working in Russia. It's not working where it's not working in China. It's not working where it's not working in Venezuela, in Cuba, and all these countries that they sanctioned. So we here in South Africa, we can be the beacon to say all these things that the BRICS countries have been warning about. Oh yes, as well as in the Middle East, we know about Iran, we know about Saudi Arabia, and so forth, that are not part of this. And that we've been sold to by these comrade Tsotsis, as well as these Askaris that have been infiltrated in the governing party. So we have to change the status quo. Let me give it to the new speakers, and then I'll relate on these issues later with Don.
Thank you very much, Eldin. Let's just, without any waste of time, go to hashtag Mkhonto. Over to you.
Hello.
We hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, niyaphila bafowethu nobawdade wethu. Cha, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys for very good movement and the good initiative that you are doing. Unfortunately, at the moment I'm abroad in Qatar, so I left last year. But I'm a big fan of Mkhonto, ngumuntu omkhulu impela olandelayo kakhulu ngenxa yezinto ubaba uNcamalala bezenza. So but at the moment I'm hoping ukuthi we can progress, we can achieve many things, but we also need to be more strategic in it. Whatever we're trying to do or whatever we're trying to build, we must be more united. But most of all, we must be always ahead, just like Ubaba Msholozi was always doing. And then we can also attack issues that is currently facing and affecting our country, especially youth, everybody. I think we have seen what is happening at the moment, and then there's no hope, because everyone, like the leaders, current leaders, they think about themselves. They don't care about the country. But at the end of the day, when it's about the election dates, they come to manipulate our citizens. So we need to be and then to achieve many things. So I believe that this is a good start, but not only speaking, but we have to also take actions.
Thank you very much, Mkhonto, and for your words of yes, I can recognize your hand. Over to you, Rachel. Rachel has seemed to have dropped into a listener. I hope she's going to grab the microphone right now. I may well as well say, while we are expecting other people to come in terms of asking for the opportunity to talk, that yes, you are not alone over there in Qatar, Mkhonto. Just quite a number of us, they are spread across. I understand Bell Ray is also in the Far East. So is myself unidentified. I'm in the Far East in Taiwan. We looking so eagerly at what is happening in our home country, and we doing whatever it takes to encourage our people across the borders of South Africa, our friends, our former colleagues there, our relatives, to say, guys, do whatever it takes. You've got to get things moving with Umkhonto weSizwe. We want to see things happening. Indeed, we are looking forward into that. Are we getting Rachel back online? Yes, Rachel, you are being recognized. You can take over now. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. I don't know what is happening to our spaces. We like just getting cut, then we have to go, come back, and come back, go and come back. I hope I didn't forget. You know, somebody posted on our space. I see now. It's a post that they picked up from.
On my side, I have lost Rachel. I don't know if you guys can still hear her.
I've lost her to either. It seems like she has just been lost by everyone. So is El Nino signing to us.
Yeah, there's a new speaker while Rachel is trying to fix her issues there. Ukashana, there's Ukashana there. Kashana.
Please come in.
Thank you and good evening, commanders, and thank you for the opportunity. I think maybe without any further ado, maybe just to quickly refer back to the topic, does multi-party democracy system work in South Africa? I think one simple and straightforward answer, based on historical, of course, historical South African politics, I'll say no. Why? Of course, we've once, okay, first, I think we need to first understand who owns South Africa. Is South Africa sovereign at this moment? And our answer is no. South Africa is not sovereign. We are still captured. We are still under the rule of UK. So that said, of course, we are still under the rule of the Oppenheimers, the Jews. Those are the funders of many other parties. I mean, we've seen recently, of course, some of the parties have came forward and showed us who their funders are. And the observation is clear. We've seen the Oppenheimers, they actually seem to basically wanting to fund any other party. And of course, I think El Nino also indicated earlier, he said he's basically indicated that who plays the tune, who plays the tune? Okay, who's okay? I'm losing the expression, but nonetheless, El Nino said it. So that said, I want to refer back.
I think he said, "Who funds you owns you."
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I think it's just the nerves and the butterflies. Of course, I think I'm losing my virginity because it's the first time I'm actually joining the space. I've been wanting to, so it's some pair of butterflies. But nonetheless, we'll proceed. Now, we'll recall also that at some point, the ANC, which used to be our political home, our party, had the 2/3 majority. We could have changed things. However, unfortunately, because the government of the day back then was captured or was owned by Stellenbosch and White Monopoly Capital, we couldn't. It was clear even in the inception of the ANC that the mission and vision of the ANC is to bring back the land and, of course, nationalize the South African Reserve Bank, you nationalize the mines, etc., etc. But that never happened because, of course, abathengisi noma kwesithi abacindezeli base beyibonile bakwazi ukuthi bazosimanipulate kanjani. And we here now sivule MK party, of course, as a result of ukuthi sigcine sesibona along the years ukuthi okay, inhlangano yethu kwakuyi-ANC is been infiltrated. Sahamba safika to a point la sekukhona khona faction within one organization. We had the RET, we had CR17. So going back to the topic again, we've also seen historically in our politics at some point. I remember, I think it was just the first sona umangabe efika government of the day noma current president. There were allegations by Ulekota saying wabadayisa, etc., and impendulo yakhe wathi yena no, they've put communist ideas in his mind. Now, I remember EFF, they made a lot of noise about it. And the only way current president akwazi ukuthulisa ngawo lo msindo lo was one answer. I remember his answer was, because EFF was making noise and saying, we now know that Cyril was an agent, and we now know that he is basically a CIA agent. And what Cyril's answer was, he said, I'm also told that EFF is a project of the MI6. And from there, EFF never uttered any utterances with regards to the agents and the infiltrators within our government system or within our politics. So why am I mentioning all of these? It's basically just to how to say back or support the statement that I've just indicated, that we are still there's a lot of infiltration, there's a lot of agents, there's a lot of CIA activities that are going on. However, I think one good thing, of course, I think we have to thank our ancestors for Ungamalala, because of course the ground is very fertile for us. And I think going forward, for us to basically reach or achieve all the goals and all the milestones that we want to achieve, of course, being to change the constitution, being to obtain the 2/3 majority, kusho one thing and one thing only, like I've indicated, okuhle ikona ukuthi our ground is fertile, because thank God uNcamalala usebenzile during his term, and Uyena who is actually also backing MK political party. That said, we've also seen quite a number of people bethi bazojoin the MK party from other parties. Why? Because of course it's because of his reputation, it's because of his honesty, it's because of his ethics, very ethical. So that said, kusho ukuthi kushiya with very few parties. Of course, i-ATM angakaboni ukuthi ubani oyifandile noma ifandoba, which says a lot. Perhaps yes, we need to cut them very close eduze kwethu, especially now that we can see what the enemy is planning. Of course, it's no longer a secret. Abayifuni MK party kuma ballot papers. We're not saying, of course, sebewinile sisafane senkantolo next week ama outcomes akhona nakhona izo-challengewa ngendlela ezo-challengewa ngayo, because it doesn't make sense ukuthi ngathiwa siye enkantolo kuyo-challengewa indaba ye-MK party eyaregister waconfirm u-IC ukuthi no, iwamitha wonke ama-requirements by September last year. Just yesterday, just this week and last week, ibiwina ama-by-elections koPongola, siwina ama-by-elections. Actually, yeah, not necessarily, we see our contest ama-by-elections. And that said, kuchaza ukuthi vele njoba siwa-contest ama-by-elections, u-IC akayiboni problem. But contrary to that also, kunecala kufanele siyoli-attenda, but nonetheless icala lifakwe abanye. Kodwa-ke ngizama ukusho ukuthi lokho kuyasiprovela ukuthi njengoba kunama-multiparty eSouth Africa, isandla sesinxele noma isandla soboya sohlezi sikhona. So what I'm trying to emphasize mina lana ukuthi ngicabanga nje ukuthi mhlambe singaze sibhenke kakhulu ekutheni fanele sithi sizorelya ekutheni fanele silale nobani noma sishade nobani, because also historically we've seen ukuthi le mishado le politically ayilast. Of course, we've seen no DA, no Ahang SA, etc. And even ANC as well. They've tried, or they have also, done lama coalitions in the past, and awapheli kahle. So my emphasis, as I'm indicating, ukuthi asisebenze, kusazomele sisebenze kanzima, siushaya door to door, singene ey'ndlini zabelungu, singene ey'ndlini zamaNdiya, yonke indawo, because okuhle ukona ngempela ukuthi kusetshenzwe umsholozo usebenzile, sizokwazi ukukhomba sithi nakho ukuthi kwenziwe, kodwa ukuthi singafinyelelanga khona ithemu yakhe akayiqedile. Ngizocela ilokho nje bengicela ukuphawula, ngifuna ukwanda ngibe mude ama-comrade, ngicela nje ukuthi kuzofanele sisebenze, hayi kancane, kuzofanele sisebenze kakhulu kunakuqala. Mhlambe le effort esesiyikhombisile, we need to double it or maybe siyenze ibe threefold. Ngiyabonga.
That's very good, Kashana. You cannot tell that it is your first time being on space. You made yourself just very, very clear on the points that you made, and they are very strong indeed. One point that I can emphasize before we can move into the next speaker, I think the issue of funding and the issue of getting into bed with other organizations, I can do nothing other than just concurring with you fully that yes, indeed, it doesn't work. You know, not so long ago, I was personally disappointed by the Holomisa's party when it came the issue of the Judge President Hlophe, and they voted, you know, with the enemy, which I never thought that they would. One may not necessarily talk much about the ATM, but I know that they remain a small party that is funded by their religious groups and the like, that one doesn't know much of any other foreign funders. But now, where does it leave Umkhonto Wesizwe? I think one of the things that I think going forward, we would need to look at as members will be to suggest some very low premiums for the political party Umkhonto Wesizwe going forward, very low ones. It could be the very 10 rand that is a minimum registration and the like. But why I'm raising this, because you have just touched on the issue of funding. Being in the majority means that we can do without needing the big business funding, because small amounts of money like 10 rands per month by the millions of people can get an organization somewhere with the figures that they would rather find it very hard to raise. So I think it will be one of the things that we will have to look at, so that even in future we don't get to be influenced, because it's not only about to not necessarily ours as per se, but in terms of the Umkhonto Wesizwe. And these big businesses will be wanting to take the opportunity and say, oh, here is this vocal person, Rachel, let's get her to be the, you know, to serve in our board of Mercedes South Africa, or whatever company that we have. And that's how things start, you know, getting diluted. The next time we will be wanting to deal with Vodacom, MTN, to deal with data reduction and the like, then we find that El Nino is no longer talking the language with us, simply because he's already a shareholder with MTN and Vodacom and whatever. So those are the things that we'll need to guard against them going forward, as to how do we still participate in actively in business formations, but at the same time not compromising the redress program that is supposed to be taking place within our countries. Okay, I see you had El Nino. I was just making an example. Let me just mention before I hand it over to you that it was just mere example, not necessarily that I don't want you to have any business dealings. Over to you, El Nino, and we're going to move on. Please raise your hand, folks, whenever you want to make the contribution. Over to you, El Nino.
Okay, before we go to El Nino, but we do have a new speaker, Usianda, but he will go after El Nino, of course. I'm trying to accept you, Rachel, and Umkhonto back, but I'm struggling, but I'll keep trying. But there's Sianda, his new speaker after El Nino. Thank you.
Thanks, leadership. I won't be long. Because the person who actually mentioned that, even the issue of who funds who own was Udon, but I see he's fallen off as a speaker. He also mentioned what unidentified talked about, the issue was referencing to. But you'll remember in our earlier spaces, I did talk about this to say at the dusk of 1994, there were people that were delegated by the ANC itself to say, you, and whoever, go, we recognize the talent, we recognize the intellect that you have. Go and study, go to Europe, go to America, go to Venezuela, or go wherever in the world, go to Japan, go and study this talent that you are nurtured with. But unfortunately, when they came back, I know of two cases from Pumalang. One is one popular man, as Don was saying, that some of them, you find them in these so members of the board there. When they came back, and there was supposed to be a transition of power, as you know, ikeda diplomacy, policy, within 5 years, they give you 5 years, go and acquire the skills. When those people came back, there was gatekeeping, and there was brutal, savage gatekeeping. Those people were threatened with their lives. I'm not talking lies. It's something that I was told by a person whose brother was a MK force in Pumalang. A friend of mine who told me that thing straight to say those people were threatened. They were supposed to go and work in the mines. They were supposed to work in the government, but there was gatekeeping. So what happened? At the end of the day, they are now sitting with these international companies, multiple boards. They are members of those boards. So it shows that infiltration that we've talked about. That's why I say you guys know these MK veterans. There's a whole lot of okay. So hashtag Umkhonto Wesizwe was talking and Ukashan was talking. This is the deep grounded work that has to be done by MK progressing, as we are saying, vele isikhathi vele siyashaya, but it has to be a rapid thing that has to be done in order to change the political situation. Let me learn there to allow the other speakers, hosts.
Okay, thank you, El Nino. Let's quickly go to Sianda, then Sianda, Utumabeng, and then we'll go back to Urachet because I see she's back. Sianda.
Greetings, leadership. A very good night to you all, comrades gathered here. Man, yeah, I think we are reaching a stage whereby we are lucky, but not to be lucky, but very lucky that we are reaching a stage to be credited by a political credential of 1994, some sort of, if you look ahead of what is happening and what might happen. Because, well, it can all be done, it can pull on the ground. How is the response? That's where we are going now, because I really do not believe that we must take it and feel it as if we are enjoying it and just accept it. I do not think that we are there now. The war has been declared. We are in the middle of the war. We are in the middle of the struggle. We did not expect it to go this far, but here we are now. What done? We're moving forward. No retreat, no surrender. I think we all know that movie by Van Damme or whoever. We are just head on now. So, comrade, all by me saying that, I'm not saying that maybe we need now to raise our eyes or our heads as if something has happened. We still need to listen of what is going to happen and how is going to be the outcome. Even the outcome is speculated to be known, but we need to wait and see how things are going to unfold. But fortunate enough, we'll be here and we'll be pushing this machine. I do not want us to give up and say, hey, yeah, we must feel defeated. We know that people who are heading these machines, they have plans already. That is given. But again, they will need our support. They will need us to march behind them and all of those things. So we need to continue to working very hard and do whatever we are doing. We've seen what has happened today in Durban. I mean, if everyone can see, and it's gonna be looking more like we are making a reference from the July unrest, but it looks like it's going to be even more worse because you'd look that KZN will retaliate, then that might not be the case. You'll find your Limpopo retaliating to whatever the outcomes might be. So, comrade, we just need to soldier on, move on. Yeah, the machine is moving, man. And South Africa is very nice. The political dynamics of South Africa are getting more interesting every day. And we just praying that if we might be taken out of the ballot, things happen in a way that come November 5 and Donald Trump emerge in America and you'll see the movies because I think maybe we are taking it, or our politicians or our courts, they want to take things by the emotions or by what they want to see happening. But if you look at a longer plan of it, the problems might come for them if they are not careful enough. Let me land there for now, host, and thank you very much.
Itumeleng, and then yeah, Itumeleng, and yeah, guys, we are struggling to add others. Okay, I see EJ is here now. I was struggling to add EJ. Okay, I see he's here now. Itumeleng, over to you. Uh,
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, host. I think we just took everything for granted when we got into democracy about the whole thing of multi-party system of South Africa, wherein those who planned for our destruction, they have seen that in the long run, if the ANC being in power is the one who's going to determine the road ahead, it's going to be very dangerous for them if they can't find people who they can control inside the movement. So what now is emerging is that despite the fact that people that have been bought during the CODESA negotiations, now it's emerging that they don't like it when ANC was having this kind of big majority, and which is predominantly African, and wherein like almost everybody was gonna wake up and see that this ANC is not working for us or is working for us. Like for an example, this party called Rise Mzansi is headed by someone who was an editor or something of a newspaper. I don't you know, like I don't know what like his struggle credentials. Of course, even mostly some of us that are now a bit of at least over 35 years or so, that might not be so much involved in the struggle by then in the 90s or so, or the early 80s. But I couldn't find anything that qualifies the man to be a leader of a party. You can see that there is an instruction for people to queue at Stellenbosch or wherever where they get money to say, you know what, come and fragment the black vote, the African vote, especially the African vote. Because if you can look, if as Africans, we can just leave everything and come together as one to say, you know what, this is the minimum agenda of program, the program that we want as a minimum that we want to see happening in 5 to 10 years. For an example, if you look at the manifesto of the EFF, it talks about land expropriation without compensation. The manifesto of ATM agrees with land expropriation without a compensation. MK agrees with land expropriation without compensation, nationalization of the Reserve Bank, and all those progressive, programs and proposals. I think all of us, we might just, as Africans, we just leave our differences aside and go to the core of what causes the unemployment and the problems of South Africa. I can tell you, I remember one time Sholozi has said that when he was president, he said if he was given about maybe 1 day or 2 days a week to be a dictator, he was going to sort out the problems of South Africa for good. If I was gonna be a union building, I was gonna sort out the problems of South Africa within a year, because I would have known that okay, my people want the land, my people want a nationalization of the Reserve Bank, my people want free education up until undergraduate, and also bursaries for postgrad, and in terms of the technological sphere, my people want I haven't so much been in politics from a longer time, at least about 15 years ago, from past 15 years. But I can tell you, I'm able to see where the direction of the country should be headed to, in terms of where do we touch, which button to press to stimulate South Africa and also to take over the economy. And now, with this mushrooming of black parties, is really going to give us a problem in the long run in South Africa. It was noble everything, and it can be overturned. Of course, guarding against giving Parliament a lot of power or something, but I think we must consider the parliamentary supremacy in South Africa, because I'm telling you, as Africans, the constitution is not working for us. All of us can see unemployment, problems, load shedding, in the name of democracy. What kind of a democracy is this one, wherein we've got load shedding for 5 years uninterrupted, and people seem to be not fixing the problem? We can't be continuing like this. Something revolutionary has to be implemented. I don't know. I think possibly I'll listen to other members here in the space, but I think we must look at this possibility of creating parliamentary supremacy, wherein the parliament becomes the ruler, or becomes
but also guarding against those that can be bought as members of parliament, because now even everybody can see those members who voted for the impeachment of John Klopp. I mean, what's that? But like, people can't be independent thinkers. You can see that as an instruction from someone to deal with the man. We must play the ball, not the man. Thank you very much, host.
Thank you, Itumeleng. Unidentified, what I did there is Orachel, because she was having problems in Ambela. I added Orachel as a co-host. I hope she won't have any problems. One of the speakers today or tonight did say that we need to work extra hard now. So I just want to assure the speakers that we still that we have here that we still have time. If it needs that we have to discuss extra more. We'll have to do that because we need to tackle these things and we need to collect those important points that we make there so that we can submit our suggestions. So we do have new speakers, which is EJ. No Wally Mark drops. But before we go to you, EJ, I can assure you gonna have enough time. I want to attend to that hand that is up there, and then from there, unidentified you and Rachel, you gonna help me. But we do have EJ, no Wally Mark drops. It's very important to give the new speakers a mic so that they can have their submission and then ikwazi ukuqhubeka futhi inkulumo yethu kahle. Is very important because sometimes, especially when we are having this network era, this network problem that we're having,